Right, welcome to this episode of Top 3 Tips with my good friend Melanie Spanswick. Melanie is a composer, educator, presenter, adjudicator. Have I missed anything out?
No, that's pretty good.
Trying to think. I've said composer, haven't I? Would you
Now,
mind giving us a brief kind of introduction about yourself?
well, thank you very much for welcoming me here today. It's really great to be chatting to you. Yes, my name is Melanie, and of course, I do a lot of different things. I do a lot of teaching. I teach the piano at Eton College and at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama Junior Department, and I do a lot of adjudicating for BIF, that's the British and International Federation of Festivals, and do a lot of writing. You might know me from my books. I've written over 30 books now, mostly piano-based books, and yeah, a lot of composing as well. It's been interesting, and blogging, of course, like yourself.
Yes, well, thank you for being here, joining me and sharing your knowledge. Obviously, you're a high caliber musician, widely respected, and so it's really good to have you here. Now, really going to be over to you. Top 3 tips. What would you suggest are your top 3 tips currently for piano beginners to intermediates, which will relate to advanced too?
Sure. Well, we could be sitting here for hours discussing the top tips, so it's quite hard to hone them down to three. But number one, the top tip number one is to always practice with the metronome. This is my experience with students, and you can apply this to any level. But I should qualify myself. It's not really just the metronome per se on the main beat of the of each bar. So say you're in 3/4 and you're going to have a crotchet or quarter note beat. It's not really setting it to every crotchet beat. It's actually using it to subdivide the beat. So maybe setting, if you're doing a Bach Prelude and Fugue or maybe two-part invention or some Mozart, maybe setting it to the subdivision of the beat. So it could be semiquavers, or that is 16th note beats for your American American audience, or you might want to set it to demi-semiquavers. It depends on what your shortest note is going to be in the bar, because if you set it to, if the tick to that and you play along to that tick, you're setting in motion not only developing an internal pulse, but you're also developing professionalism so that every single note sounds even. And we know this is really important, don't we, in especially Baroque classical repertoire. And it's often where students come a cropper, they don't set the tempo to the shortest beat, so you get some instability. So I think using the metronome when you practice most of the time is really, really helpful. That's one of my tips. Also using the metronome, the other thing you can do is you can set it to a very slow beat so that you're going to play from the beginning to the end of your piece using the metronome very, very slowly throughout, because this tends to stop hesitations and errors, which we all know occur if we're not quite prepared properly. So I feel that that kind of metronome setting, just going right from the beginning to the end, is really useful, whatever level pieces you're playing. So that's my top tip. Tip number 2, always practice to the keybed. So what do I mean by this? Well, again, it's practicing very heavily and deeply, going past the double escapement on your piano if you've got a piano. If you've got a digital, you might have to use a bit of imagination, but certainly playing very, very deep and heavy into the key, so that if you practice like this, or maybe practicing, another way of saying it is fortissimo, all the way through your piece, you're going to start developing firmer fingers. Now, I should qualify that, because it's easy to just do that and not be flexible everywhere else. You've got to combine it with flexibility, having your shoulder released, your arm released, your wrist released. And with my students, what we do is we will practice using a heavy touch on every single note, and the tip of the finger, and using a very relaxed wrist on every single note. So we're letting go of the tension between notes. So we're developing a good technique to be flexible and tension free. And we're also developing plenty of power to go into the note, especially on 4 or 5, which we know is weaker, so that we can use really every single finger going, as I say, to the key bed, developing firmer fingers, developing a better sound, and setting ourselves up for tension-free playing if we're going to use this very relaxed way of doing it. Obviously, that's very brief in a nutshell, but that's certainly, those 2 points are what I work with my students all the time.
You're pressing quite firmly into the keys.
Very firmly into the key, using the weight of your arm. So you're actually using arm weight on every single note. It doesn't matter if you're playing scales or whatever you're playing, or study. My students will do it on Bach Preludes and Fugues. They also do it on etudes. We do a lot of etudes going right from intermediate. So we'll start with a little ABRSM graded pianoforte studies. You probably know those in the green book for everyone.
Yes.
But yeah, we'll start with those. Sorry.
That's okay. And once you get onto the keybed, at what point do you then release that tension?
As you go to the bottom with your wrist, dropping into the key. So you're dropping into the key. Drop, drop, drop. So I get them to drop and release. We work a lot, actually. We work a lot on very simple 5-finger exercises. I've spoken about this a lot on my blog, and also in my three-book series, about to be 4-book series, Play It Again Piano. I take students through it there. But if you can play to the bottom of the key, going into the key and then releasing, you're going to start releasing your tension on every single note. Sorry.
The ones you've actually got there, we don't continue to push.
No, you're right. As you drop into the key, as you drop the arm, you're going to release it at the bottom, basically. And it's a habit. It's a habit that forms over a period of time, so that the arm, and especially the wrist, and also the hand, I find students have a lot of hand tension as well, just dropping into the key, releasing everything. So eventually it's really only the fingers that are working firmly. Everything else is a very relaxed way of playing. And if you go to the keybed, you get that stability. I find if you don't do that, you haven't got the stability with the fingers, and then the release is difficult for students. So that's my tip number 2. Tip number 3, I find a lot of adults especially are glued to their score. You ask them to look at their fingers and they can't. So perhaps if you can just memorize just some of your music, not all of it, but just memorize, so you can take your eyes off the music and actually focus on the fingers and watch how the fingers are playing the keys, how you're placing every note. Because I so often find adults are playing and then they've got flat fingers and they don't really know what they're doing, and the finger placement isn't correct or isn't very accurate. But if you can actually watch how they're placing their fingers on the key, and if they can play with a fairly deep touch as they're doing it, fingers hooked, we say, then they'll start to develop a much better posture at the piano, much better hand positions, and it will become a habit. So if they can just bear to take their eyes off the music for a little while, I find that's very helpful.
I think that's very good advice.
That's it.
No, because sometimes just on that point,
yes,
you get people that will just focus down on the key.
That's true as well. Yes, that's true as well.
And they will kind of forget what's on the score, not note-wise, but then all the other things, the phrasing, dynamics, articulation, and everything.
Yeah. I think that's true. You have to find a happy balance, of course. But the people, the adults I've been teaching recently, they're playing fairly advanced stuff. They're preparing mostly for their diplomas, and you find that they're absolutely glued to the music, and they're not really aware of what actually they're doing with their hands and their fingers. So it's nice just to take them away from that and just to get them to look and watch finger placement, watch hand positions, I think, and that it only helps it develop rather than carrying on with a habit that's not very helpful. That's my experience.
It was interesting what you said in tip number 1. I made a note: hesitation, because I think that's one of the biggest, or one of the one big mistake that people can make, and because it's very noticeable. It's more, I think, sometimes of a more serious mistake than a notation error.
Yes, definitely.
That hiccup at the bar line. So I think using the metronome to get past that is quite helpful, and also using the metronome just perhaps from one, if you're playing a sonata, you can when the theme comes back, you can check your speed, check that you are the same speed you were at the beginning.
That's another thing, isn't it, that you often find if they're playing a sonata or something where you're coming back with a recap, you're completely off tempo if you don't set the speed. So I found the metronome going, as I said, also very slowly. Students forget that they need to practice a quarter of the speed if they're going to prepare it. If they're not used to playing right the way through their piece and they're prone to hesitations, go back to a quarter of the tempo to that suggested by the composer and just literally play from the beginning to the end. I have found with students that, especially adults, it's transformed their playing, actually.
Okay. Well, thank you, Melanie, for your top 3 tips.
My pleasure.
anything you're working on at the moment, or anything specific you want to announce? I know you've got lots of books. Is there anything
Lots
else?
of books, yeah. I mean, we've got a new Snapchat's duets and trios book coming out. It's completely for beginners, so I've got the others going from initial level to grade 6. But I did some work last year with a group of students who were all grade 6, 7, and 8 piano, and they actually couldn't read properly the notes, notation, and they couldn't play together. I was actually setting it up as a duet concert and trio concert with some young students, and we were doing it on the same day, so they had to be able to read the pieces, and they really couldn't. So I thought, my goodness, it's time to start with really easy duets and trios, just one hand in some cases, so that they can get used to reading the notes and developing sight reading alongside playing ensemble with their colleagues. So we've got that coming out. That's with 80 Days Publishing quite soon.
Right.
And then my prep book is coming out with for Play It Again. So a lot of people will know that my Play It Again series, which is published by Shot, is book 1 to book 3. But now we've got a beginner's book. It's not actually beginners, it's late beginner to grade 1, because we had so many comments from people that have bought the book. Oh, grade 1's a bit difficult. Can we have something slightly easier? So this starts at kind of late beginner. Probably goes alongside your book nicely, actually, just after that, and then it's separate hands as well as very slowly hands together. It goes up to grade 1, and it will prepare students for the rest of the Play It Again course. So that's taken a lot of work. It's 37 pieces. It's a massive amount of text because there's a lot of technical advice and tips there. So we're hoping it'll be out in October. That's coming up.
Fantastic. I look forward to taking a look at that.
Thank you.
I will put any links to your website in the description here. And so thank you again for sharing your expertise, and your analysis, and for articulating it in a very clear way, so I'm sure everyone can understand. So thank you again, Melanie.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Marcel. It's been lovely.
Pleasure.